grab some water.
Yeah, grab me one as well, please.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mehrnaz Campbell, from CEO and founder of Cheemia and Cheemia Reset. Thank you, Florent. And thank you so much for all of you being here for what I believe is going to be a really exciting session that I've been waiting for some time. The title of the session is The New Go-to-Market Era, and the question whether the old traditional commercial effectiveness is broken and in crisis. I have Florent with me here, and I'm so excited to have him because I don't think he needs much introduction. Florent is VP, Head of Global Commercial Excellence in Grünenthal, and the two of us met online initially, and we met last year in Nice, and since then we've been chatting together non-stop. What Florent brings to the table is a wealth of experience from what you might not know: banking, consultancy, startup, as well as commercial excellence that he's gained through the time he's had with AstraZeneca and Grünenthal. But what really attracted me to him was his passion about patients and how he tries to align everything to deliver to that vision. So it's really good to have you here.
Thank you.
What I find is the purpose of this session is around thinking about what is the optimal customer engagement and where is it that we need to invest to achieve that. And I want us to think about the humans, not the technology here. And I have direct interactions with healthcare professionals and payers in the UK. Some argue that UK is one of the toughest markets in terms of HCP engagement and in terms of access. And what we find based on our own personal experience, there's three key fundamental things that you need to get right to engage HCPs. If I could have the slide, please. The first key pillar is relevance. Everything you do, everything you say, every content needs to be relevant to the HCP and address the key pain point. You miss that, then don't engage with you. The second key pillar is the timing. You need to deliver that content at the time that is most pertinent and they need it most. And the third thing is channel. You need to give the HCPs the freedom to choose the channel they want to engage with you, but as an organization, you need to be flexible, competent, and confident to connect with them on their channel of choice. And what we find is when you take the relevant content at the time they need it most and let them choose the channel, you are able to engage the most difficult HCPs, payers who influence the whole population, that they not only want to engage with you, they see you as their trusted partner. And through that, we can grow brands exponentially. Obviously, you can't do that for everyone, so you've got to be bold and focus on those that you target that are going to give you the exponential growth. Florent, I'm really interested to know what's your view. What do you think of the three key pillars that I shared? Do you agree with them?
I totally disagree. No,
and also,
I think, this is, we've been in Grünenthal on a journey to omnichannel. We are entering the customer experience age. Lishan is going to talk far, better than I can do about that topic right after what we do there. But when we talk to customers, one of the key components is that notion of I want some relevant content. I want meaningful, relevant interactions. And one component that came out of that is that notion of trustworthy. Is your content trustable? Are you a source of trust? And that takes time to build trust, specifically with HCPs. But I really enjoyed the session this morning from Stephanie, who came on stage and told to our face, we are going to kill all your patient awareness campaigns. We don't need you, and they don't need you. Because the source they curate are sources of trust. So why would an HCP go to my website for a patient awareness campaign to give to his patients if he can indicate something on Google that is from a source of trust? So we need to think about that. How are we going to build the trust with the customers? How do we build the relevancy? That's really, for me, the first point is when I was talking to a doctor from New York, and I was asking, what can I do for you? And what she was telling me was, I'm in my practice, I've got a patient in front of me, and you have exactly 40 seconds to answer the question that I have on your product, whatever that question is. The day we can deliver that, in terms of timeliness, in terms of relevancy, the right information, we will be able to build a real, durable, trustworthy relationship with the customers.
And I know Dana couldn't be here with us, but I had a conversation with her, and coincidentally I was on another panel with her 2 weeks ago talking about a similar topic. She said, in her opinion, the timing is more important than relevance. You need to be there at the point that they need it, and that's how you build trust, and that's how they see you as a trusted advisor.
But in the US, physicians spend, I think, in average, 76% of their time on admin tasks. So they have 24% of their time, mathematically, to see patients. Do you really think they have time for us? Not really. So you really need to come in at the right time for them to deliver what they are asking you to give them. And that's where, one of the things we are trying to do, and we are not there yet, I will not lie, is to move from that push to a pull. We want to understand from the customer what is the content, what is the information, what is the support that they need for their practice to become either a better professional or to help better their patient, and to make it accessible where they want to consume it. And that's a complete pivot for all the sales and marketing and medical teams. And I was having discussions again, with medical friends that were telling me, oh, medical education is medical education is medical education. You don't touch that. Well, when you talk to physicians, they tell you medical education is boring. And they want it in another way, in another format. So how do we bring that? How do we bridge that from their desire to what we can deliver? Is complicated.
Yeah. So Florent, you talk about the relevance, you talked about the timing. How about the channel? What's your view on that one?
So is the pharma rep over? No, I don't think so. I think we are pivoting, and the whole company, maybe it's a portfolio effect, maybe it's an industry effect, we are pivoting to key account excellence. Definitely, we think that the future is not in a race for share of voice, that's behind us, but it's in getting into a practice, understanding how you can help the physician deliver a better job, expand his practice, whatever his interest is, or, just be better. And we calculated that when I came to Japan, I worked 4 years in Japan, I wanted to know what the reps were doing in the field. And so I sent people with clocks. And they were clocking what the reps were doing from morning till the evening. That's a fascinating exercise to do. I would encourage you to do the same thing in your company. But what comes out of that is 10% of the time customer-facing maximum is spent on your marketing message. 10%. How much of your budget is spent for that 10%? How much of your budget is spent to retain that patient or that customer after? And that's where we need to strike the balance between service and pure advertisement.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think there was a discussion earlier on, there was a panel discussion. I think Danilo talked about looking at the behaviors, looking at the behavior segmentation. And we've been using this for a number of years. And you've got to be brave, because when you do behavioral segmentation, you put your focus and energy on the 20% of the customers that are going to give you the return. And what we find when you do that, it stops you being busy and allows you to personalize your content and your messages to those who really have a relevance to the brand proposition. So I think gone the days of trying to do everything for everyone, and we need to be a lot more deliberate, because I think Paul Tanner asked earlier on, what is it that we're going to stop doing to be able to do all this other new stuff? And I think maybe that's being much more deliberate in our segmentation and involve the field team to be orchestrator of that and decide how we're going to use the behavior of the customers to decide whether they're relevant or not.
Though I would agree with Julien. I like coming after Julien because I agree with most of what he says. We are working on sound. Our data is crap. Our data lakes are data swamps. And let's be realistic. We don't have the behavioral data on customers at an individual level. So we can make very wrong decisions, specifically if we leave it to the machine to make the decision on what should be shown to that customer. So really a fundamental piece of work, and yes, it's unsexy. You need to clean the data. You need to work with your IT people and everyone so that you get clear data. Otherwise, you will feed your AI with bullshit and you won't go anywhere. That's super important. I also take from you the idea of organizing awards where the prize is to come to see me on stage, but we can talk about that after.
You know, I was listening to Vanita. She was talking about how you engage the field team, because I think AI gives you data, but you need to have common sense. You need to have field team buy into it and validate that data. I remember we did the targeting in Pfizer years ago, and they used an AI tool to do like allocation of the managers to the field force. And it was just using the 30-mile distance a crow flies, and they assigned the territory to a manager that physically would take them 4 hours to be on the territory. So you need to have more alignment to get the field team involved in that decision making so they can actually say, this is bullshit, this doesn't make sense. And don't wait to develop your content and give in to the rep. Talk to them beforehand, because they're going to tell you this is not going to resonate with HCPs, so you can tweak it before it actually gets to the final approval stage.
And the challenge is if you displease your HCP, they retract their consent. If they retract their consent, you're dead. You can't interact with them anymore. So that's why it's so important. And you know, talking about Vanita and Danilo were joking about the legal. One of the first things we've done, and I think we did it right, in Grünenthal when we went on that omnichannel journey, was to establish a digital ethics charter and to establish a digital ethics committee. That brought us to completely change our consent policy. Because as soon as you do what you do, like behavioral segmentation across channels, GDPR forces you to have an explicit consent for that. If you don't do it, you breach GDPR. By the way, if your rep is using WhatsApp and have the customer details on his phone, like the phone number and all that, it's also a breach of GDPR because that goes into the cloud. So those stuff, you need legal with us. Otherwise you don't survive.
Hey, you're going to get a brownie point from the compliance for being such a, goody two-shoes. Hey?
No, but I mean, we've been in the journey with them since the beginning. Otherwise, I mean, the first time I said AI in Grünenthal, I nearly got sacked. Because you don't say swear words in the company. So.
What, they don't give you an award for failure?
No, not yet.
No, maybe you need
to
change companies. Anyway, we were talking about this last night, and we said it would be really good to have audience participation. And we thought, yeah, maybe if we had planned it earlier, we could have had like keypads and whatnot. Yeah. But we thought we'd just use you to share your thoughts around these three key pillars. So may I ask you to all stand up, please? Yay. Cool.
So maybe we should stand up as well.
Yeah, let's stand up as well. So what I want to ask you is, just think really honestly, think about the relevance and think about your own organization and honestly think, is every content, any interactions you have with HCPs is relevant? If you honestly think it is, stand up. Otherwise, please sit down. Thank you.
So we got a few courageous people.
Yeah. Please stand up if you're honestly.
Stay up.
Stay up. So for those of you who's standing up, I want you to think about the second pillar. Is in your organization the content delivered at the time when the HCP needed most? And if you think you do, please stay. Otherwise, please sit down. Perfect. We've got people stand. Oh no!
I was just saying I've got vacancies.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I think we've got some work to do as an organization, as an industry. Yeah. So I was going to share with you. Should we sit down? Yeah.
We can finish. Yeah.
I was going to share with you. I used to be a healthcare professional before I joined the pharma industry 30 years ago. I feel really passionate about HCPs and being on their agenda. And I feel so passionate that I actually started writing a book. It's called The Omni Advantage. And I'm so thrilled that I've had input from some of the most inspiring gurus and thought leaders in the pharma industry, including Florent. Paul Sims, sitting there, he was up till 3 o'clock in the morning writing the foreword for the book. And Paul Tonner, I don't know whether you're here. Perfect. Yeah, so these three, plus a few other people, have had major contribution in this. And the purpose is to accelerate the behavioral change required for working in this new era, using omnichannel, but taking the people on that journey with us and giving you a playbook so the leaders can see what are the elements you need to get right in your organization so we're not getting distracted by the shiny stuff and we're taking everyone with us on that journey. And should we take some questions?
Yeah, maybe.
Cool.
If you have any
We've
questions,
got
I think.
a few seconds. So
When is the book coming out?
the book's coming out in the summer. So if you're interested, private message me or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I let you know when it's out. Cool. Thank you for that. So
do
any
we have
questions?
Any question? No? Yeah, one.
Go,
two.
Dan.
Oh, I'll just speak loud. Thank you.
Go for
Thank you for a great presentation. Anyway, I was quite interested in I like the triangle. Obviously, like relevance and timing is key. I was just interested to know, aside from rep feedback, do you feel like there's been good progress in terms of getting data and information about what is relevant to each individual customer and when they need to have a kind of sales or more commercial conversation? I think we had a discussion with a lot of people about like really understanding what content people are interested in. And I suppose to Florent's point about trust, if you don't already have the channel where the doctor is going and engaging regularly, the only data you have to go on is their interactions with, say, sales reps, right? Which is not that much. So do you have any ideas or plans about how can Pharma build that trust, create channels that people will interact with, and therefore use that data to think, okay, now it's relevant to have that sales conversation?
Yeah.
So I think you have multiple ways. The first way is the simplest one, is to use the sales force to understand what's really hot on the agenda of the HCPs. They should buy in because you tell them we are doing that to build better content for you, to be more relevant with your customer. So somewhere it's logic. The other aspect is more complicated. What we are trying to build is to have all the content tagged. So that's why I was like looking for vendors to help us with the content tagging in a better way, to be able to understand, to do that 360 view of the customer of what are they consuming. And based on what we push them and their acceptance rate versus what they pull and the content which is pulled, then to be able to produce more of that content that is desired. I had people wanting to do A/B testing, but it's so far a bit clumsy in pharma, I think. We don't really know if the mail is open because it's good or not because it's in front of the customer. So we couldn't go down that route yet. But yes, definitely we try to build a real 360 view of the customer that is data-based, which is not only gut-based.
I'll tell you about our personal experience because we actually interact with healthcare professionals. We do a lot of research, so we segment account based on potential, but we also segment on their attitude. And say, for example, even if you're launching a product on respiratory, we look at the behavior of them on other therapy areas when a similar proposition was offered. If they didn't take that proposition, we know they're unlikely to take our proposition, so we just exclude them. And my team and I do a lot of research before you make a contact. You have a really clear call plan, and we look at the marketing messages, and we only lead with the most pertinent message that is going to really resonate with the healthcare professional. And we use a lot of tools to do environmental analysis to see what they're thinking, what they're doing. We read the strategy documents to see what are they actually discussing in the Drugs and Therapeutic Committee, and we would pick up on information that we know they're looking at this disease area, we know they're interested, and it's so easy to do that because you can actually put that on the search on your tools that you're using. We use Discovery in the UK, and then we tap on their shoulder when we know they're evaluating a disease area and say, you are already looking at this. We have a proposition that is got all those components and more. And I find the best way to reach people in the first instance is digital, because these people who make decisions on a population are really busy. You can't just book a half-an-hour appointment with them. So we work really closely with medical and marketing, and we develop content that is approved to grab their attention, and we get the e-permissions, and then they ask us for some information. Usually they want to see what it is, and we find within hours they respond back when you get them at the right time. And I've had situations like a chief pharmacist who make a decision across the mental health, across a large geography in the UK, that nobody normally can reach them. When you reach them with approved content that resonates with them, they actually booked an appointment for me to see 2 of the deputy directors to have that discussion. And what the other thing they do, I think the digital content has a lot of legs. So make sure your field teams get their arms around digital content. Because I've had situations when I send the digital content to healthcare professionals and they circulate it internally. Next thing I know, I'm getting a call or an email from the chief pharmacist who wants to see me because what we're talking about resonates with their pain point. So I hope that answers your question, Dan. We have a question here. Do we have time or not? Dario? Do you have a question? Yeah. Mike's coming.
Like they are so much over time that he escaped.
The question is related to what you just described. Many times what's relevant to the HCP, it's about his ecosystem, the issues that they have, which are not necessarily answered by what we are trying to sell. Mm-hmm. So how do you find ways in the company to, or with your teams, find ways to balance this, to keep relevant, but at the same time, provide the information that we need? Because many times in that triangle, I keep seeing channel and content, but content is marketing, content is drug.
Yeah.
So how do we manage that?
The biggest issue in UK NHS is staff shortages, and it's getting worse. So this week I was talking to my team, and when they're calling GP practices, some of the practices have this default message that says, for the patients, we are not seeing any routine, only emergency, and if you have a routine issue, dial, what do you call it?
911.
11. What's it, the nurse thing in the UK? No, it's like a nurse call that you do. I can't remember what's the name of it, but it's, you either go to the pharmacy or dial the NHS Direct, that's it. And they actually wrote a policy last week that the pharmacists are now responsible for administration of the antibiotics because the GPs don't have time to even see patients. So what we find is when staff shortages is a key issue, you look at your brand proposition and say, in what way my brand reduces staff shortages or reduces patients' time on the chair, is a cancer drug, or reduces the hospital stay, or reduces the burden, so maybe the patient can be treated in the community, doesn't need to have the hospital admission. So when you're talking to that HCP, you don't rock up and say, I'm going to talk about my brand and these are the key messages. Say, I want to talk to you about the proposition that is going to address your staff shortages directly or indirectly. That's when you get their attention. And they want to talk to you, because if honestly what you have to say, and you've got to be genuine, you can't really just make it up. If honestly what you have addresses the pain point, it really opens door. And they introduce you to other people, so you can have a discussion to make a decision across the population.
The way we have approached it was to map the practice of the HCP, understand what they are spending time on, understand where they want to go with their practice. Do they want to expand the practice? Do they want more time with patients? And then to have the key account managers help with the different steps, like coding procedure, benefits verification from patients, making all that seamless for the HCP, to free time for the HCP to be front with the patient. And I think that's how they listen more when we're talking about the product, basically.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we've run out of time. Thank you so much,
Thank
Florent, and for your participation. Thank you.